Hello. Um, I hope I set this up right. I don't know if anyone is here or not, but there was a wild little dust storm in my classroom. I've never seen it like that. My neighbor was doing some sort of lawn mowing or something, and the dust just went absolutely insane all over my computer and face. Welcome back, Seb and Florian. Thanks for sticking around. We're in my front yard now. I love it out here too, so this will work for the time being. Now, I gotta say, although it was a little absurd, whatever my neighbor was doing with some weed whacker or something, the amount of little grass particles that were flying at me, I'm not going to blame them because those neighbors that share a fence there have had to deal with a lot of loud math ranting, a little bit of burning clocks, and some wildness. So I feel like my neighbors should get a little freedom to cover my classroom in dust if they need to. But we're in the front yard for a minute. So, let me get back to the stories I was saying, which this time I'm actually going to get into because, as you may have observed, I get really distracted by the comments, which is fine. I'll make the streams nice and long and chat with you guys for a while. But what I did want to mention is that I forget what comment this related to, but this year has been a pretty wild year. Seb's wondering if I insulted a number they liked. Yeah, maybe they I don't know. I don't really insult numbers. Maybe I insulted a letter from the alphabet they like. That would be more possible. Now, what I wanted to say is that I wanted to share some stories that you guys may not know that while I've been filming all the videos this year, which on this bonus channel, you may have seen a little out of order because I was originally making my main combo class channel where I put my full passion project episodes, similar vibe to this though, but longer time to make my thoughts come together in a cohesive way. On that full channel, I'd been starting filming for that right at the end of last year, the very end of 2021. And at the very beginning of 2021, I had already been planning to turn all of my artistic ideas to merge them with my love for math and start teaching that stuff as one of the many projects I've done in my life. There are many weird art projects and film projects you guys will see eventually, but I only started this math based one last year in the midst of a very, very difficult year. I'm not going to get exactly into a big incident that occurred to me in January of 2021. Oh, yeah, if I said last year, 2022, I get mixed up. So last year was 2021. And at the very beginning of the year, in January, on January 17th exactly, there was a pretty wild incident I had. And that's going to be a story for another day because that's pretty intense for me to go into and we'll take a long story. But as a result of that incident, among other things, I broke the largest bone in the body, which is the femur of your leg. I broke it in one of my legs, and I had to be in a wheelchair. And I was hospitalized for a while from that, and then a wheelchair, and all sorts of insanity. And as I got out of the wheelchair, there was still something wrong with my legs that wasn't properly diagnosed by the hospital when they let me free from the femur stuff. And so with my legs, I spent last year having a lot of difficulty walking. I was teaching in a shop at that point still. I had a bunch of my students and I was like commuting on public transit and my legs were killing me and I couldn't figure it out. I was limping everywhere and I wasn't trying to cosplay anyone, nope. And I looked like it maybe because when I would show up to a party or whatever, I didn't want to just bring like walking sticks. I felt lamer, so I would bring for a few reasons as a conversation starter or in case I encountered any spies. I use a golf club as my walking stick. You may have seen that in some full episodes. But I would show up to parties all last year with a golf club, partially as a conversation starter. I don't really play golf, and partially because I needed it to walk. And I spent last year in a lot of mental and physical pain. And finally, they realized that there was, when they looked at a larger x ray, apart from just the lower part of my femur that broke, they realized that both of my femurs had messed up bones for reasons we'll get into in the future, but related to the broken femur and other stuff. Both of my legs had incredibly messed up bones at the top of the femur. The bone had broken in a way where the upper bone was crushing down and mashing into it. and I was shorter than before. And I was like shorter and uneven, and it was insanely painful. And that was while I was filming all of my first episodes on the main channel. And then I got my first surgery of one of the two sides. They had to replace part of the bone in both sides for that. And I'm like, okay, this is my 2022. I'm getting leg surgeries. I need it on both sides. They're both an intense recovery. I'm also going through mental stuff, but I'm still going to teach things. I'm going to find a way, not just for my private students, who I also, as a personal goal, I wanted to keep my private students learning. I wanted to spread my ideas to more people. And as I got so obsessed with math, partially in that recovery period where I was trapped at home so much, reading a billion math books, falling back in love with it, because I've been in on and off love with so many things over the years, from music to writing fiction to math. And as the math cycled back around stronger than ever, I was like, yeah, math really is one of the things I'm obsessed with. Also, teaching other forms of science and trying to put a creative spin on them, as well as just making them exciting, because I do like having science happen to me. Like, oh, whoa, I got hit by a clock. There was wrong gravity there. Oh, got a crooked desk. We'll see what that does to gravity. Oh, if something's on fire, how quick do you got to put it out? So I like making myself experience weird science, which can be a fun way to captivate people to learn math and stuff too, and eventually trick everyone into liking numbers. I will trick the masses into becoming mathematicians, or math lovers at least. Now, throughout all that pain, I decided to still find a way to film stuff. And I didn't start filming my short videos, which weren't posted on this bonus channel until more recently. I started posting them on TikTok originally because I didn't know how hooked I would get on making short ones. I was making longer episodes. And so one of my cameramen and friends was like, hey, why don't you just start posting short videos of some of your ideas? Because I'm always ranting about stuff that doesn't make it into the episodes. Why not share them? And so I decided, yeah, I'll make some random TikToks, and got hooked on it and started making those since April of this year. We're in 2022 as my surgeries are happening. And after the first surgery, when I made the first TikToks, I was unable to walk without using a walker when I was making the first ones. Same with when I was filming certain episodes, with the ones where I'm like limping to my desk and walking all crooked and stuff. Partially because after I got the first surgery, I was recovering from one surgery, still had the other part broken, and now they were uneven. They fixed the height difference on one and not the other. And that was actually the one that was shorter before. So I became like uneven, then they extra fixed it, and I was uneven the other way. And then they fixed both. I got the second surgery after a few months of filming that. I haven't reposted the clips where I was like talking about getting the surgery here, because that was when I was still posting the short ones only on TikTok. Some of them didn't make sense contextually to repost to this bonus channel. And basically, I didn't start putting out the shorts on YouTube too until the start of September. Barely over a month ago was when I made this channel, the bonus one. And it's doing way faster than my main channel in terms of gaining random subscribers, because people watch random shorts. But I do have my more diehard fans at the main channel too. And I kind of like keeping them separated, because my main channel's like the full educational resource, as well as my full kind of show that we're in kind of season 1 or grade -1 of. And the bonus videos are just all the other fun stuff I want to share on here, my streams included, and all the 1-minute ones. Pretty soon, we're going to have less bonus videos on here, because I was not like less than one a day. I'll make one almost every day. But I've been reposting a lot that I had made between April and September that had just been on TikTok. So like if you see me with an unbroken desk, that's probably a reposted one. And I'm almost done with all of my favorite ones reposting. So we're basically caught up pretty soon to it just being new ones on here. And I'll also post them on TikTok, because there's a lot of people on there, and we actually have a lot more people there. Since I've been posting them on TikTok since April, we have over 30,000 combo lords following there. But I'm more proud of my YouTube followers, because TikTok's all right, but I don't really use it as a viewer. I love YouTube. I've been watching YouTube since I was a little kid when it first came out. I thought it was so cool when I was at my friend's house, and he was like, there's this site where we can watch this video. And it was just like someone hurting themselves or something, a video. But I was like, why is that video available for us to watch? It's like, oh, wait, there's this site now where, and I'm sure there were other ways in the past, but YouTube was my first representation to, you don't need to be Hollywood to make a movie. These home movies that I'd been shooting on cameras and stuff at home, I could put them online if I wanted. There's websites for that. And so I've been in love with YouTube since basically when it was created. And TikTok I barely use. So I'm a lot more proud of my fans here and extra proud of my fans on my main channel because those are people who like watching my whole stories of math and my whole art projects related to tying together a math idea. I'm going to go through the comments in a second, but to wrap up a little bit of this, there's a lot I haven't shared about. I'll still tell you guys later about the whole incidents and stuff back in 2021. But in this stream, I'm probably just going to share some surgery details about like what it's like to get knocked out in anesthesia and stuff like that. So let me go back on a few comments first. Someone asked if the tornado's over. Yeah, I might move back to that zone. That'll be especially necessary if my battery gets low here, because that's where I can plug in stuff. So if I need to plug in my computer, I'll go back to the combo class. For now, we might just be in my front yard for a minute. Oh, and hey guys, in the last stream, when someone said portal, I was like, my cats have a portal that always gets busted back open by some type of raccoon or cat or something whenever a neighbor tries to nail it up. So there's always a new portal that they've given up trying to nail shut that the cats like to go through from my yard to other wanderings. And now that we're in the front yard, I can actually show you guys the portal. Um, Over here, and this is a yard I share with other houses. So this isn't solely my yard. There are other houses that share it, but this is kind of the corner closest to my house. And in this little corner, we have, where's the, it's kind of hard to see the portal. I'm trying to get a portal angle. There's the portal down there. See that little portal? It's hard to see from this angle, but there's a little portal that always gets busted open where the cats go on their wanderings to talk with crows and look for snacks and whatever cats do. I really someday might want to try putting like a GoPro on one of my cats and seeing where they go, but I feel like they wouldn't really like it. So if I can find a way to put a camera on one of my cats without them hating it, then I'm going to see where they go. Um, Now I'm going to go through some comments before I tell you guys about what it's like to get knocked out by anesthesia. Uh, Someone said, who would need a conversation starter with all the math facts? Now, the thing is, I hang around a lot more artists and filmmakers than mathematicians, just based on who like my best friends in my squad are. Um, some of them love math and they all love it enough that they'll like the first 10 minutes of me ranting about a topic. Then they might start tuning out after I talk about math for half an hour. So, my friends aren't as much of pure mathematician lovers as I am. A lot of them are more into art, visual styles or musical styles or things like that. And I just love my squad. They're awesome. But they also like helping me with my projects and they are enough interested in math. But as far as conversation starters, I just thought it was funny to have to use a golf club. And my joke, because I'm the type of person who I have consciously never gotten in a fight, although I've gotten in some insane arguments. I've never had to lay my hands on anyone. Hopefully that will remain true because I love peace. So I'm like the last person who would ever use a golf club in any type of intimidating way. But I joke with my friends that it's in case any spies show up. Um, so someone's saying how rough it must have been, and it was incredibly rough. It still is rough because I'm still dealing with the physical recovery of not having walked right in years and having to learn to walk again. I'm still in pain, still in physical therapy and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, it's difficult, but I love making videos and I've found a way to do it anyway. And someone, let's see what else people ask. Someone's asking if I've talked about vortex math or sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is a kind of weird subject because there are certain types that are called sacred that are overanalyzed in that way because then it's considered they're more sacred than other things. I think if you're going to call some parts of geometry sacred, you got to call most of them. It's just so beautiful. So I haven't done much vortex math in terms of those sort of modular tables, but I will do a lot more of that on my main channel on the Clock Quest series I'm doing. I've made one Clock Quest episode so far where I explained all my clocks, but there's going to be a lot more where I kind of just like accumulate a few clocks and then tell you guys about some modular arithmetic or other types of clock fact. And that will have a lot of similar things to what they were referring to in vortex math. Now, let's see if there's any other comments here. I love all you guys for your comments. I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but everyone is very awesome for commenting. You are all my fellow combo lords. Someone's saying I could collaborate with them on fractals. Who are you saying I could collaborate? Oh, with my friends. Yeah. Yeah, probably. And I'll probably use their art in more things to try and represent mathematical ideas in artistic ways. Now, programming a fractal, if you're talking about having like a mathematical fractal you generate, is going to be a little difficult for just a pure artist to do. But when I get in touch with more programmery people, I do have good ideas of fractals to explore. And they're going to pop up in the episode I'm dropping in a few days about tetration on the main channel, because tetration can make really cool fractals. Like I hinted, it's the level beyond exponentiation. And the Mandelbrot set, the most classic, iconic example of a fractal or a mathematical fractal, which kind of deserves the title because it's so awesome. The Mandelbrot set is similar to some tetration fractals you can generate that I will show a picture of in my next episode. I don't know how to program them yet, but I got some of the Wikipedia pictures as a little hint of what I might try and program in the future. Um, Now, catching up on the last one, someone's asking if I've tried programming. I'm such a non-computer wizard. Like, for somebody, I'm in like my late 20s, and so for somebody on the relatively younger age, people think I would be good with technology, but I don't like technology. I like learning certain technologies. If I learn how to use a good camera or a good tool, then I love it. And so I'll probably learn certain programming tools over my life, like how to test a sequence of what factors relate to some pattern or stuff like that. Maybe how to program a fractal. But I probably won't get too in depth into computer programming and will want to collaborate with other people who know more about that because I'm more of an ideas guy than a technical guy. And I don't know, programming's a whole rabbit hole that I may have fun with. Like right now, I've been having a little rabbit hole of fun trying to edit some of my episodes myself, as opposed to working with as many friends editing, just to get them out more frequently. So that's a kind of computery thing, and I may get into more computery things. But in general, I'm a kind of old-fashioned person. I love having like a newfangled device that works well for one purpose. But in general, I also love my paper books, and I love cooking on a campfire. And I don't know if I'm the right guy to go too deep into programming. I'm the right guy to make a weird diagram on a whiteboard that shows a program or a cool idea to test. Um, Now, Florian's saying that I actually implemented some fractals a while ago. Well, Florian, feel free to email me at combouniversity@gmail, or anyone else who has any computer programming experience if they want to try making any visuals for any sequences I've been fiddling with. I have a sequence that I'm working with that would be very easy to program that I think has some beautiful ideas in it, where a way of iterating an input sequence in a unique way that I don't want to say I've invented, because who knows if someone stumbled into it before, but I haven't found it elsewhere online. A way that I figured out of inputting a sequence with some rules that generates a whole forest of numbers. And in these grids, if you were to color the numbers different colors, there's some really cool fractal patterns in what numbers show up where in this forest I've developed. Um, Seb's wondering what I think about paradoxes, and I'm a huge fan of paradoxes. In fact, logic, the subset of math related to various types of logic, was one of my first loves in math. I loved the author Raymond Smullyan, who made these logic puzzles, as well as Martin Gardner. And they were two of the first authors who got me deeply hooked on math. And a lot of it was from the angle of presenting a paradox, trying to show some ways in which we can explain it, and then kind of leaving you with some ways in which there are almost contradictions in our explanations, and certain things remain paradoxical. A paradox really just means something that could seem counterintuitive or seem contradictory, but also sometimes that seeming contradictory relates to a truly fundamental strangeness some paradox can have that tells us things maybe about ways in which human explanations of things are impossible to capture the truth without hitting strange glitches, or possibly even ways that the universe is impossible to fundamentally explain without strange glitches. Now, logic is insanely cool, and I even made a whole video about paradoxes, like further versions of the "this sentence is a lie" paradox. And I scrapped that episode because I didn't think I explained it right. So I want to make many episodes about paradoxes. There are so many fields of them. So there will be in the future looks into numerical paradoxes that are statistical, We'll have looks into paradoxes of language. We'll have looks into paradoxes related to almost existence, ways of how could we define things, not even meaning language, but just a way of characterizing things that relates to paradoxes, kind of between math and language and philosophy. And there will be other types of specific mathematical paradoxes, like what's known as paradoxes of choice and things like that. Let me leave you guys with one little paradox for fun right now. No. Maybe at the end I'll leave you with a paradox. I promise that I'll tell you guys what it's like to get knocked out by a doctor. Paradoxes will have plenty of time to shine. I love them. Now, do I like infinities? Yep, I love infinities. I'm glad you pluralized it, because infinity can be a philosophical concept, but it can also be a mathematical one. Now, I think that there are a few ways of thinking of infinity, because in one sense, there's a geometric infinity where you can have cross sections of a larger thing. There's an infinite amount of area compared to its perimeter, an infinite amount of volume compared to its surface area, if we're looking at balls, for example, in different dimensions. And so I think that infinities could be seen in one way as the next level that you are a thin slice of. Now, the more common mathematical infinity is trying to make a number out of infinities that we could try and almost use similar to numbers. And we call different types of infinity different because you can make a one-to-one correlation with certain infinite sets, such as square numbers and whole numbers. There are as many square numbers as whole numbers because you can pair up each square number with the whole number. It seems like the square numbers have less, and if you analyze any chunk of them, they have less density, but on an infinite scale, they can be paired up. Whereas you cannot pair up the integers or the square numbers to all of the numbers on the number line, counting square roots, counting pi, other things like that. There are more total numbers than just the ones that we can call rational, able to make a ratio fraction of two integers. And so the rational numbers and the real numbers are a really classic example of two types of infinity. And what's really interesting is that when you look at other mathematical phenomena, like even in game theory or things, sometimes certain explanations can be paired up as this infinity is actually this, what we call a countable infinity, versus the uncountable infinity of some type. Now, people are asking about a lot of cool things here, comparing the this sentence is a lie paradox to the double slit experiment, asking my preferences and how I think of certain shapes or installations. I don't know if I've heard of that installation. I'll have to look into that. But I am going to pause for a second on talking about all my love for all the shapes and such that are being commented. I do love all these paradoxes and shapes. And I did promise to explain a little bit more about what it's like to get knocked out by doctors and stuff like that. So I want to go into that. If anyone ever needs to get a hip surgery in your life or a similar surgery, it might be something like this. So, what you might have to do is what happened to me. You sign up for a date when you're going to go to the doctor and have a lot of crazy stuff happen to you. Before that date, you're in a bit of pain because there's a reason you're getting the surgery. Now, leading up to that, you're also probably really anxious, like I was. And you're like, can I go through with this? This is scary. But you just have to bite the bullet and do it. And then you go to the doctor's office that day after some rules of like what medications you can or can't take leading up to that and certain things. You have to, in the middle of the night before you go to the doctor, drink this carbohydrate filled drink with like electrolytes and stuff, because you have to fast and only drink that. And then you have to stop even drinking liquids at a certain point. You have all these guidelines. You get to the doctor, and then they're like, all right, done doing the guidelines. You just sit here, and some crazy stuff's going to happen to you. And you're like, okay. Now, the first surgery I got, the anesthesiologist, I might be wrong. I don't know as much about medical stuff, but the anesthesiologist or whatever you call them was a little bit more forgiving on my anxiety the first time, where they started pumping a little bit in the gas mask of the stuff that knocks you out a little bit and gets you a little foggy. Before they started going through this next part I'm going to explain. The second time I was a little more 100% coherent for what they were about to do. Not as fun. But then they tell you to lean up, and you have this mask on that the type of surgery I'm describing, you get knocked out kind of in two ways. Instead of back in the day where they would just knock you out, and then while you're knocked out from one method, which might be multiple substances, but they just like knock out your whole body, numbness and brain, and then they work on you. Nowadays, they found it safer to, and like less complications or whatever, to numb you and then knock you out just enough for the brain. So you're super numb, and then you're just barely enough knocked out. They're in the operating room with you. And I probably, because I have vague memories of this, like, was that real or was that a dream type memories? You often wake up during the process without really knowing because they just turn up the dial again and then you go back down. You're like right on the edge of just knocked out enough. But the numbness they do by sticking something, in my case, in your spine, because it was the lower half of my body they needed numb. So they sit you up, they jab you in the back with this little needle. Feels like just a bee sting. It doesn't really hurt, but it's kind of like weird. And then they lay you back, or they're like, tell you, lay back down in a comfortable position. And then your bottom half of your body goes numb and you can't feel anything. And they start cranking up the dial to get you a little foggy a bit, but you're not even fully knocked out yet. They wheel you into the operating room. And then when I get in the operating room, you see this like team of doctors around you, including the guy you've met who's your surgeon, and a bunch of random people. And then they have on this giant thing that looks like a PowerPoint like one of those PowerPointish shots on a big computer screen. They have my X-ray with like a big red circle, like you'd make in a YouTube video if you're like top 10 scary creatures caught on film. That red circle you'd put around the creature in the thumbnail. That they put a red circle like that around the part they were working on, even though it should pretty obvious from the X-ray. When I show you guys the X-rays, oh boy. Um, so with the X-ray on the screen, that's like the last thing you see is your X-ray circled and this team of doctors around you talking about how they're about to begin, and then they fully knock you out. And then you have like vague memories sometimes of half waking up, which I had, and then you're like fully woken up and you're done with it. And you're like, what? And you're all foggy and weird. Now, what they put in the mask is kind of weird. Now, I'm going to tell you one of the substances that I saw they put in the mask for people to knock you out and get you all foggy. This is not saying that this substance is in any way safe, but I think it's kind of comically absurd because it's a substance I would never do in the way people do it on the street. But part of what's in the mask is fentanyl, the substance that is now known for being sold on the street and killing tons of people because it's insanely strong, heroin-esque, very bad, and can be like substituted in other powders, and people don't know how strong it is and die. So it turns out that's part of what they knocked me and people out with, along with other things. But they do it in a medical way with the gas that's nothing like a powder you'd get on the street. So it's kind of funny that I've done that twice in my life. Like I said, not trying to sound like a safe thing. It is the opposite of that. It's showing that that is something that the only use for it is a doctor giving you a minuscule amount in a mask for your surgery. And so, and yeah, imagine the last thing you see is like a YouTube thumbnail, like the doctor looked at tutorials. It was like